Steak is a cut of meat commonly from cattle, but can also come from bison, deer, as well as various types of fish, especially salmon and tuna. But when you say steak, we usually think of a thick piece of beef cooked on a grill or cast iron. Steak is truly one of the greatest comfort foods, and when seared properly and cooked to that perfect medium rare, there are very few things that I think are better. But perfection is not what Adam Ragusea is going for with his steak cooking technique. In fact, it's turned heads, it's created tons of controversy, but is there any merit to it? You're just gonna have to watch and find out. Before I go on with today's episode, I do want to give a special shout out to my amazing patron, Tsao. Thank you so much for your support. And with that said, on to the reaction. Frenchy, you know what the people shouldn't do? Is pick up a bottle of gochujang
à l'orange.
Gochujang
à l'orange.
But you should pick up a bottle of blink.
Once.
You financed this sauce. This is our
I know.
Both. So you want to get
but I
that
screwed myself up.
project.
I'll be from before.
Yes, these are both sauces produced by us and Samsa House. Don't pick up any of these. Link in the description below. You ready to check out a different way of making steak, my friend? Because you've made a steak or two in your
I've
career.
made every way.
All right, let's give it a try. This is Adam Ragusea, why I season my cutting board, not my steak.
Everybody knows that cooking a piece of meat is like wringing a wet sponge. Heat pushes out moisture. What is less known is that the same process, to an extent, works in reverse. Meat sucks up moisture as it cools.
Yep.
This is one of the many reasons why I usually don't season or flavor my steak. I flavor my cutting board.
What do you think so far?
Nah.
Nah? I will say this. I definitely agree with him that when the meat cools,
Yes, but
that it absorbs moisture.
there's a lot of science out there. That doesn't mean you apply it to everything.
Well, I was just going to say, when I make my briskets, like we're running a special at Mission Sandwich Social, you can pick up one of these teas. Link in the description below.
Now I know why you gift me these t-shirts.
You get a free t-shirt. Yeah. So at Mission, we've been doing this brisket special, and I found that one of the most important parts is allowing the meat to rest. I mean, this applies to all protein, but wrong button.
You changed the buttons.
No, I didn't change the placement. There we go. Now you got it. Okay. But particularly for the briskets, because the second part of the cooking, we wrap it with aluminum foil. It leaks out, the protein leaks out all this juice. But if you let it rest properly, it'll reabsorb almost all of that juice back into the protein again. And
That's
then we
what
slice
she
it.
said.
That's what she said.
Nothing but oil on the steak before it goes in the pan. You could put some
hope
salt and
that's not
pepper on it
extra
before
virgin
cooking
olive
if you
oil.
want, but I like my pepper raw, and the idea that salting meat immediately before cooking will enhance browning is, as far as I can tell, a myth. If you want to salt in advance, do it at least 40 minutes in advance, per Kenji's authoritative article on the subject, linked in the description. What I'm doing here is a classic technique called dressing the...
I think what Kenji, another very famous chef, really knows what he's talking about. You know, doing 40 minutes ahead, that's getting into the territory of dry brining, and dry brining is great. If you have the time to do that, by all means do. But at a restaurant setting, you don't have that kind of time. And also, you can't really predict very easily how many steaks you're going to sell to pre-dry brine them. So generally, in a restaurant setting, we will just season very heavily right before we sear. Listen, you can do it any way you want.
Enough! Move on!
Hey, I'm giving the people some education, okay? All right, buddy? Go put on some pants and calm down. Because you're not wearing the pants.
I wear the pants
board.
even when
and
I'm
one
not
of the
wearing
reasons
the
I
pants.
love it is that I can do all of this prep while the steak is already
great.
cooking. Just chopping up some rosemary from my yard. Rosemary and steak are chef
Agreed.
kiss. Now I'm just finely grating a small clove of garlic with my microplane. This is going to be virtually raw, so be very careful with how much you use.
More the better.
I like garlic, and I like a little citrus on my steak. Not everybody does, just a little bit for me. I use lemon, sometimes I use lime, sometimes even grapefruit. And I like a ton of coarsely ground pepper. I like it raw because it tends to burn on the steak, and because cooking pepper takes away a lot of its pungency. That's why people in fancy restaurants offer you some at the table.
Yeah.
Just a few grains of salt go on the board. I'll tell you why so few.
You know, Guga feels differently. He doesn't think that it makes a big difference putting the black pepper before or after. I think it makes all the difference to put on fresh ground black pepper after the cooking. No comparison. Sorry, Guga. You're wrong.
I'll flip my steak. Sear. That's a strip steak, by the way.
Nice
Brits will call it a sirloin. Couple little slivers of butter go on the board. You could throw that butter in the pan for the last minute of cooking if you like it brown. I like how the milky taste of fresh butter contrasts with the deep, dark flavor of the steak, and I am not alone. Tons of classic American steakhouses finish with fresh butter. I cooked this steak for 9 minutes total and rested it for 5. Including the minute in which I preheated my pan, that is literally 15 minutes from start to dinner.
That's just messy and dirty and everything. Just make a compound butter and then put that on your steak. And
at the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is stupid.
No, I don't.
No,
I don't
this
hate
is stupid.
This. I don't hate it.
No, it's stupid.
I don't hate it.
It's stupid.
Listen, the benefit of a compound butter is, well, there's going to be prep involved, and you have to make sure you get that butter to room temperature. And you know, not everybody is going to have the foresight to make that happen. But I do agree with Frenchy.
Oh my God! You just scrape it on a goddamn no.
What if they don't? What if they don't have a mixer? You have to remember the average home cook doesn't necessarily have all this equipment.
Get a stick of butter.
Mm-hmm.
Get a long glass. Put hot water in it. Empty it. Cover the butter. Within a minute, you'll have stuff.
Beautiful. Great. See, now you're offering education.
Yeah, but you know it's quick. I'm hungry, so let's.
Oh, I'm fucking hungry too. Okay, good. Oh,
dinner. Because again, with this method, you can prep all of your flavorings for
anywhere you want, sweetheart.
Oh, where do you want to go? Oh, wait. While
it's cooking.
Oh, wait. We have the dice. Yes. We choose. Let's see.
Is there French food on that?
Probably not.
Oh.
Okay, let's try. We have we got these dice from a fan. It tells you genre of food. So here we go. We are gonna have subs?
No.
Italian subs.
No.
No, we're definitely not having subs. One more time?
No.
Oh, okay. We watch video?
Yeah, watch video.
Okay.
It goes on top of all that stuff. Its heat will soften the rosemary and melt the butter and take the edge off of the raw garlic as it all just sits there and rests. All right, look at that.
Okay.
Why is it?
I just want to mention.
What is that color?
What?
What's that color on the steak here?
Nothing. Just
you don't see what I see?
What, the green here? Yeah, but that's a reflection of the lighting onto the steak.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh,
No. The steak's not green. I will mention, though, he moved a cutting board with a knife on it. Don't ever fucking do that, guys. Yeah, that is super. Even though the knife is in the middle of the cutting
Adam
board.
Ragusea?
Adam Ragusea.
Do we like him?
Yeah, we like him a lot.
Oh,
he's
shit.
great.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
Juice coming out. That's like the water we squeezed out of the sponge. And normally it would be lost in the ether, but we're going to reclaim it. I'll cut my steak into thin slices, and because I'm lazy, I'll cut the slices in half so everything is bite-sized now. And then here's the big moment. We'll just toss the pieces in our pool of flavor-augmented beef juice.
Why?
No.
Are you not liking it because he's using his hands, or?
No.
I don't hate this. I don't hate it. I don't love it. Don't get me wrong. I don't love it. I don't hate it.
This is when the sponge starts to reabsorb. And it'll absorb even more if you let it rest a second time in a big heap like this to keep it warm. That said, with all of this slicing and resting, the meat will go cold the instant you put it on a cold plate. Yeah. So I either eat it straight off the board or I warm my plate. Here is one way to warm a plate. Run it under hot water for a minute, both sides. It'll be easy to dry off because hot water evaporates. A hot plate can actually reheat a well-rested piece of meat, which is one of many reasons why steakhouses generally heat their plates.
Any good restaurant has their plates under a heat lamp of some sort, and or they will heat their plate, flash heat their plate before they start plating. FYI.
This is frustrating me.
Look at how
really
little
don't like
juice
this.
is left for me to scrape off of that board. The meat has sucked in the rest. Hey, fun fact, even perfectly pink...
What?
I don't like this.
You don't like this?
Nope.
No?
I'm put off.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I don't.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No.
Why do you hate it?
I don't like it.
Why?
I know.
No? You like the old school...
No.
Season-
I like.
Can you
No.
emphasize, please? Can you explain? How would you do
I want
this?
my steak to look like a steak.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair. Hey, that's fair. That's fair. Totally fair.
And
Pink
pick
steak
out,
will-
and I got a way of eating my steak.
Mm-hmm.
Like I start with this side.
Yeah.
Usually start with the decal.
Right.
That's
On
my
a ribeye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little bit there, dude.
On a
little.
strip? That was
Ah.
a strip. That wasn't really a decal.
No, but
on
like I
Oh.
like to take the tips.
there. Right. Yeah. I'm sure. I bet you do like to take the tips, especially Jacques' tips.
Son of-
will look gray or brown in natural sunlight. That's why steakhouses don't have windows. I should have shot this video at night. And this is why I only put a little salt on the cutting board to get evenly distributed through the steak. I like for most of my salt to be in the form of a super coarse finishing salt. Think of it like a pretzel. You could just mix the salt into your dough before you bake the pretzel and it would be uniformly salty, but it's much more interesting and delicious to have your salt concentrated in big crunchy crystals on top. Little sparks of salt instead of blanket low-level saltiness. So there is the method. If you try it, get creative. Any flavors at all can go on that cutting board.
There's
As
not
can
a
any
single
tender
person on
cut
the
of
planet that would order a steak at a restaurant would be happy receiving that
Right.
on a plate.
I was just about to say that. So, okay, if you went to a restaurant and you cooked it the traditional way, the whole steak, if you did slice it, you fanned it out. You took the same exact steaks, same exact way, but you had one made Adam Ragusea's way, one made classic steakhouse way. People are going to be fine with paying, I would say, at least 50 to 70% more for the well-presented steak over the mixed one, because they're just going to assume the mixed one is a cheaper cut of steak. Whether that's right or wrong doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. It just is, you know. The value perception is going to be different. Yeah. So, all right. Well, that was how Adam Ragusea makes his steak, and it caused quite a, you know, this
You mean
video got
people agreed with me.
22 million views. Well, the people had
What?
their opinions. Yeah. 22 million views. So he made a follow-up video. Quick, short little video. Let's check it out. This is a follow-up to that steak video.
That got 22 million views.
Yes, it did. Let's check
What
out.
the fuck am I doing wrong?
Well, apparently you're not seasoning on the cutting board. Let's check out his follow-up video.
Hello, I'm Adam Ragusea, and I fear that I have been living a lie. About 5 years ago, I made a video about a very particular way that I used to make steak. And for some reason, 20 million people or so have watched that video so far, and as a result, a lot of people have kind of wrong ideas about how Adam Ragusea likes to cook his steak, which, to my surprise, is a topic that people on the internet seem to have opinions about. And one reason that steak with board sauce method worked so well for me back in the day is that I was poorer back in the day. I didn't have any YouTube money yet, thanks for that, by the way, and I was really buying lots of cheap beef from the grocery store, and the board sauce method is a really good way to make a cheap piece of meat taste pretty good. These days I can afford nicer beef, and I try to only buy nicer beef because I've come to the conclusion that there's really no interest being served when I eat crappy beef. It's not great for my diet, it's really not great for the environment, so when I eat beef, I generally really treat myself, and that involves going to really great local butchers.
All right. I mean,
That was it.
that was it. That kind of tells you everything, right?
Okay, so he was wrong and I was right.
Shops like Jesse's here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Hi, Jesse. And whatever he's got that's special is what I'll get. If there's some Wagyu, I'll get that. If there's some grass-fed, 100% grass-fed, I love how that fat tastes. Here's just some good old American prime beef. So within the mainstream beef system in the United States, this is about as good as it gets.
And this is a ribeye. I do usually cook ribeyes when I want steak in particular, as opposed to some other beef dish. I mean, there's a million amazing cuts of beef, but you know, ribeye is the classic fancy cut for a reason. It's got this very tender eye muscle in the center, and then it has this cat muscle, the spinalis dorsi, on the other side that is one of the best tasting cuts on the entire animal. And I look for ribeyes that have a particularly big chunk of spinalis on their cap. It's also called ribeye cap.
These days, I also usually go for thicker steaks.
I remember when we went to Porterhouse with LaFrida and Billy for dinner, and the ribeye came right next to us, and this motherfucker didn't even give me a chance. He cut the whole fucking decal and took the whole decal for himself. And I even said, hey man, can I get a piece of that? And Frenchy straight up said, no. And after I looked at him and gave him the puppy eyes and sad face, he looks at me straight in the eyes and he goes, this is mine. And he proceeded to eat it. And he really didn't share anything. And I was genuinely a little pissed. Just so you know.
I ate it all, though. And I
enjoyed. This is over an inch thick. This is because I no longer live in my old house, which had a really, really powerful electric stove. I moved to this new house that has a gas stove, and gas is lovely for all kinds of reasons, but in general is going to be less powerful than a modern electric stove.
And when you have less heat, it actually pays to go with a thicker steak because it'll cook more slowly, which will give you more time to really brown the outside before the inside is overcooked.
Get the paper away from here, and then I'll
turn on the heat under this pan. I'm actually going to use both of these burners side by side to get some more heat. And to prep the steak itself, I just do a very thin coat of oil on the meat. This is really just to kind of get the steak started before its own fat starts to melt out.
Why does he not have a cast iron?
And the reason I coat the meat and not the pan is that less of it burns typically on the meat, I think. Now when I make steak with board sauce, like I did in my old video, there's just no reason to put salt on the outside because I slice it really thin and then I toss it in a seasoned sauce. But with this, I'm actually gonna cut some thicker pieces and therefore having some seasoning that penetrates to the inside of the meat is not
just say it. I fucked up, now I'm doing it the right way.
I really like finishing salt.
Jesus Christ.
Which is why I usually don't bother to salt my meat in advance. You know, I just sort of do it right before I cook usually. It's fine.
But not that much salt because I really like to have most of my salt be a finishing salt that's
pre-seasoned.
crunchy at the table. And pepper is fine on the steak. I like the cooked pepper. I like the raw pepper on top. I usually do both.
Okay, now over here I've got my pan heating, and this is a tall-sided pan. It's actually a saucepan.
Slightly taller sides will mitigate some splatter, which happens a lot when you're cooking something so fatty at such a high temperature.
I don't hate that.
I don't hate that. Generally, you don't go with a taller-sided pan when you're doing when you're wanting to do searing because it tends to trap moisture a little better. But if I was doing this at home, I would go that way because I don't want to clean up the splatter later. So I don't hate it.
Here we go. Layer in there nice and flat. Get rid of all this stuff. Turn on the ventilation so you can see. And at this point, I'm pretty convinced in the flip constantly method.
Too early.
Or close to constantly, every 30 seconds or so. I think it's actually pretty well established at this point that this gets you a better crust, faster cooking, more even cooking through the meat. Flipping constantly does.
No.
And people have published stuff about it. Somebody did a mathematical model explaining why this heat transfer is more efficient if you're frequently flipping. The main reason I like to flip a lot is that
this works especially well with a thicker cut.
Makes it so that there's no surprises.
Yeah, look at that. That's beautiful.
You're not sitting there like wondering what's happening on the underside of that steak as you are following the dogmatic steak bro logic that says you must always only flip the steak once and only once. You can flip it really frequently.
You don't have to flip it once and only once, but stop playing with it.
He's not playing with it. This is how Guga does it too. I started doing it myself. It works, man. It works. Now, not everybody has a fucking broiler like you do at Louravage where it has such an intense fucking heat that you only need to turn it once because it will sear it properly. You have to remember these are home kitchens.
Okay, I give you that.
The crust will build gradually and it probably comes out even better.
And I can kind of keep parts of the pan from scorching, move it around, all that kind of stuff. Hey, did you notice the pan? This pan is from Made In, sponsor of this.
Oh, I like Made In.
Made In partners with the best raw material providers and multi-generational family-owned manufacturers
the plates
in
are
the
made
US,
in the new
France,
plates?
UK,
those
and
are nice
Italy.
plates.
That's where these things come from. And I love all kinds of pan materials, but ergonomic.
It's done.
Man, we should get Made In.
Medium rare means basically just the least amount of to give myself a sense of you. That'll be good for me and you. Thank you, made in. All right. At this point, I might give the steak
so
See, but you see how he's playing with
it. He
Yeah,
is
you
beating
see?
up the steak a little bit too much. It's
told
starting
you
to fall
this.
apart.
poke, even though I know it's raw on the inside, but just to give myself a sense of what it feels like when it is raw. Once I feel it getting a little stiffer than this on the inside of the steak, then I know it's done. Medium rare means basically just the least amount of possible cooking to affect the muscle tissue. So whenever you feel the inside starting to stiffen at all, that's probably an indication you're at medium rare, which is the doneness that people generally prefer for a reason. It's the doneness at which the fat on the interior of the steak is just starting to melt, but has not melted all the way out yet. Yeah, this tall pan is really containing the splatter nicely. All right, we've been cooking about 10 minutes now, and when I've got a crust that's about where I want it...
See what I mean?
So if you are going to flip frequently like that, I don't know if I'm going to explain it. Yeah, you see, the way he's grabbing the steak is he's using the tong and grabbing the edge, and every time he lifts it like that, all that connective tissue between the eye and the decal is allowing to stretch. How he should be doing it is, and it's going to be tricky in that pan, but he should use the tong and grab as much of it as possible to flip it evenly so that the connective tissue isn't being stretched.
This is when I'll throw in everything else. Smash some garlic cloves, throw those in. Kind of oily, resinous herbs like thyme and rosemary and sage usually work best. And then an obscene amount of butter. Okay. And the butter will allow us to kind of provide omnidirectional heat for the steak. We're gonna melt it and then just toss it around in that butter until it's done. Yeah. And the butter kind of wraps the whole steak. It's like finishing the steak in the oven, which you often do for a thick steak. Same effect, omnidirectional heat to really finish it all off. And the reason you wait until the end to drop the stuff in is that you don't want it to burn. Butter burns, garlic burns, and so since I've got the crust I want on the steak, if anything starts to burn, I can just turn...
Can we be done?
The cookery looks great. He's just handling it a little rough.
The heat down, it'll be fine. Now it feels very sexy to take a spoon and then kind of just like a spoon over the basting juices. Oh, looks pretty, feels nice. Sometimes I do it
He's
just
also having a difficult time spooning that butter, basting it because of the tall walled pan. It's making it a little awkward.
I feel really classy, but for what it's worth, I've found that flipping the steak constantly in the butter does the exact same thing. And I don't care
agree,
that
but you're...
At what cost?
At what cost? If you were to put that steak on a plate at Porterhouse...
You'd be like, what the fuck did you do to my steak?
That's exactly what I would say.
This violence is causing the 2 or 3 main muscles of the ribeye to separate
from each other. That
looks like
shit.
Because I like to separate them on the board, you'll see. All right, have a poke.
Oh, you have no choice.
Yeah,
they already are.
So I'm going to kill the heat. Out you come, you steaming hunk of Jesse's meat. I'm just going to let that rest for a second. Now, one thing that I do differently now is I used to throw away this butter, like right away. I'd pour it away to keep it from burning and stinking up the kitchen, but now I just take it off the heat, I save it, and I let it cool down for a little bit. All right, we can kill the ventilation. Though, honestly, when you cook a thicker steak like this, because you do it a little bit more slowly, you don't need to get the pan crazy hot, you're less likely to make a bunch of smoke and set off the smoke alarm, which is a real problem when you try to cook a steak at home. So the reasons people give for resting meat before you carve it, some of them strike me as a little...
So he spent all this money, got himself a nice, beautiful kitchen, and he still kept that dingy fucking cutting board from 5 years ago? Move along. Oh, this cheap motherfucker.
Bit questionable, like redistributing the juices. I'm not really quite sure what that means. What I know happens for sure is that the juice that's inside of the meat becomes more viscous as it cools, and therefore
get yourself a real fucking wooden cutting board that has the grooves that collects all that.
As you drag meat around inside those juices.
It's fucking poured over the steak.
I wasn't expecting you to get so mad.
This guy's an asshole.
Way of helping the meat to, in effect, absorb more of its own juices that will inevitably spill out over the course of the cutting. Because they will be thicker and more viscous when they're cooler, they will cling to the surface of the meat in a nice, thick, luscious layer. Now, the way that I carve has not changed very much.
Yeah, make sure it's imbalanced and you
go around, trim out the really big blubbery bits of intramuscular fat. Over here on the interior of the cat muscle, there's some
and you're cutting it the wrong way.
Over here, there's a lot.
Oh,
nice 3 pieces of
everything's wrong.
Move it over here. Now what I'll do is just chunk this up, the spinalis muscle here, which is my favorite.
Oh, it is
nice
way
thick
overcooked.
Pieces, and then over here on the
Adam,
eye muscle.
I love them, but
thick
this
slices.
is a little rough.
And I try to keep the slices together just to retain heat and also keep the pink coloration from oxidizing. You know, medium rare meat
Or
can
maybe
be
you're saying that
actually
because you just
medium rare,
realized you
but can't
overcooked
really
it, so
tell
I
either
don't want to
because
show
the
everybody I
color of the light is
overcooked
too
it.
blue, or because the slices have been allowed to oxidize a little bit and that pink color has gone away. And then to finish, what I like to do is take this butter that I saved from burning.
No
It's now
shit,
been
Sherlock.
infused with all of the garlic, and it's got beef fat and stuff in it, and I'm just gonna drizzle this right on over, kind of like a sauce. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Fresh pepper, like that too. And then whatever kind of cool, crunchy salt I'm into that week. This week it's this, but there's so many cool salts in this world to be had.
I'm sorry. I can't
Thumbnail while
finish
we're at
this.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fuck.
You fucked
Adam,
up that was a nice piece of meat, too.
I was rooting for you, buddy. Yeah, don't approve. Sorry. No. Yeah. He was going in the right direction, but it kind of went sideways. All right. Before we close out this episode, I want to say thank you to all of my amazing patrons. Thank you so much for your support. And for the rest of you, please consider becoming a patron by clicking the link in the description below. By becoming a patron, you get to take advantage of some awesome perks like early access to new episodes and patron exclusive content. I think Frenchy and I need to get ourselves a meal because we're getting hangry.
I am hangry.
I would say hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did making it, but I'm going to be the one today to say that I didn't enjoy it that much. No. Okay. Sad ending. All right. Well, remember everybody, it always gets better. And with that said, I'm Chef Brian Tsao, not your typical chef.
Frenchy.
This was only supposed to be for the podcast,
Oh,
but
no,
who cares?
we're doing it too.
All right, everywhere. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah, that's right. Say bye to the wide cam.